Okay, let's just jump right in. Because the central premise of the source material we're looking at today is, well, it's completely extraordinary.
It really is.
You've got a man, Marcus, who dies.
Right.
And then 70 years later, in the exact same city, he's just back, fully self-aware, same continuous presence. But now he's in a new, younger body, comes with a whole new, totally fabricated history, documents, everything.
And what's so fascinating is how the sources treat this. It's not a miracle, not really. They use this very specific term that Marcus was selfed again.
Selfed again.
Yeah, which I love. It implies it wasn't a resurrection, you know, but more like a continuation of an energy, a reinitialization.
And the focal point for this whole story, for you, the listener, is just a simple cafe, corner of mule gas, and some little cobbled alley.
That's the whole stage.
I think what's so compelling is Marcus didn't ask for this. He couldn't explain it. He wasn't even looking for, like, redemption or his second chance.
Yeah.
He just found himself there.
Right. And the source material is very clear about his only requirement for this new life. It was, and I'm quoting here, attention, presence, the willingness to meet what arose without demanding that it explain itself.
Just be there.
Just be there. And that passive presence is really the key to our whole deep dive today. We're going to explore this core idea from the sources that awareness persists beyond the body.
And how our deepest human patterns, our relationships, the true geometry of our soul, as they put it, just keeps repeating across lifetimes.
Exactly. We're looking at the data points that suggest the universe, or at least the city, is kind of running the same program over and over, waiting for someone to finally debug it.
So this is basically a shortcut to understanding the patterns in our own lives then.
Precisely. So Marcus settles in at this cafe at his window table, and he just waits.
For the world he knows to show up, a world that has no idea who he is.
And it does. One by one, the key people from his previous life start appearing. But of course, they're in new bodies with new names, and he recognizes them instantly.
And this is where it gets really specific. The recognition isn't visual. It's not like he remembers a face. He recognizes the pattern.
The essence or the tune the soul is singing, that's the term they use. It doesn't matter what the instrument looks like.
Let's get into that first group then, starting with the builder.
The builder was Vera. In his first life, she was his partner, the great organizer. She's the one who built their institute, that consciousness movement from 70 years ago.
A movement which, ironically, ended up becoming a cage.
Right, because of its own success. So today, she's Marina, an archivist at the city's historical museum.
It's the same pattern, but quieter.
Much quieter. She's still organizing, still maintaining structures, but the energy's different. The source describes her as having an expression of intelligent resignation.
And she feels this pull, this unconscious stirring toward Marcus's corner in the cafe, even though to her, he's just a stranger.
And if Marina is that rigid organizational pattern, then Katja is the physical version of it.
Katja, the architect. She was Helena in the previous life, the mother figure. And her pattern was building cages while proclaiming freedom.
A fascinating link, isn't it? Helena's cages were social, ideological. Katja builds them out of concrete and steel.
She's very successful, armored in what the source calls competence. But it also says that armor is porous.
Underneath, she's dealing with this deep, unacknowledged loneliness, a suspicion that her whole mythology of success is, well, false.
The source says her softening is a crack where the light would eventually enter.
I love that. It shows the work is already happening, you know? Even before she consciously knows what's going on, the dissolution has begun.
Okay, so from the builders, we move to the runner, Lena, Vera's daughter.
Who is now Sophia, a translator. And her whole life is built around impermanence.
She translates French to German.
And that jaw is the perfect mirror for her inner pattern, right? She literally inhabits two different languages, reflecting this dual nature she has.
She calls it freedom, her constant wandering.
But the source is clear. It's flight. It all stems from her first life, from that hunger for a connection with her mother, Vera, who was always too busy building the institute.
So if you're listening and you find yourself constantly changing jobs or cities, not from passion, but from this need to escape, that could be your pattern. It's about the impulse behind it.
Exactly. Then you get the masculine patterns. First, Jorig, the grasper, the one who wanted power in the old movement, which made him dangerous.
And now he's Anton.
Still a man of influence, but he works behind the curtain. He's still pulling strings, but it's more about surveillance and calculation now. The drive is there, just muted.
But Marcus's presence, just his quiet attention, really disturbs Anton.
Profoundly, Anton feels perpetually on edge because his own intense watching, his calculating, is suddenly being matched and exceeded
The watcher being watched.
by a superior watcher, and it completely unravels him.
And then there's the brainy one, Theodore, the philosopher, the brilliant one whose understanding stood in the way of being.
Ah, yes. He comes back as Eric, a professor of phenomenology who specializes in consciousness.
The irony.
You can't make it up. He's fluent in all the concepts, but completely avoids the actual experience.
Yeah.
His brilliance is a defense, a fortress.
Built by a child needing safety.
Exactly. He circles the truth, he can describe it perfectly, but he will not step inside, because that would mean tearing down the fortress.
And amidst all these struggling souls, you have Anna, the witness. She's different.
Totally different. She was Clara in the first life, present at Marcus's first death. The source says she needed no teaching.
And now in this life, she's a hospice nurse.
So her entire work is being present to dissolution, to endings. She finds intimacy in the dying process.
So her recognition of Marcus is cleaner, more immediate.
Much cleaner. There's less ego, fewer defenses in the way. She's the steady presence that just quietly validates this impossible reality.
So this recognition phase, it starts to shift into something more active when Marina, the archivist, always drawn to history, she finds the catalyst.
A physical catalyst. An uncatalogued box from 70 years ago about the old consciousness movement.
And this is a great example of the pattern serving the purpose. Her impulse to organize leads her straight to the evidence.
And in that box, she finds it. A photograph of the original group, Vera, Helena, Jorg, and a younger Marcus in the corner.
That must have been an electric moment. She takes to Katja and Sophia.
And just says, I think it's us. And that's it. The shared, undeniable realization. They're not just similar people, they are continuations.
And this discovery lets them really analyze why the first attempt failed, which, for you listening, is crucial. They realize the Institute didn't fail because of some outside force. It imploded.
An internal flaw. The source calls it expansion and then contraction.
Let's drill down on that. So the Institute failed because they tried to codify a living experience. They turned presence into dogma.
You nailed it. The original teaching was alive, it was fluid, it was experiential, but the second, Vera and the others tried to build a container for it.
Hierarchy, rules, a curriculum.
That's when the building had led to the calcifying. It became a dead doctrine. They prioritized the container over the content.
And Marcus basically confirms this whole thing is a cosmic cleanup effort. He tells them they aren't just remembering someone else's life. This is a chapter of your own story.
And the current relationships are all about resolving the old wounds. Sophia's or Lena's desperate need for her mother's attention, and Marina's Vera's focus on building over just being.
That lack of connection created the original fracture.
Right. And now they have to face it again, but without the distraction of a big, important institute. It's just them. And that leads to these incredible breakthroughs.
The most satisfying one has to be Anton, the strategist. He finally just breaks down and confesses to Marcus, I wasted my life.
Such a vulnerable moment for a guy built on calculation.
And Marcus's response is so gentle. He reframes it. He says the strategies were preventing the openness to not having a strategy.
The failure was necessary. The waste was the preparation. It's such a key insight for anyone dealing with regret.
And Eric, the philosopher, he has his own breakthrough. He realizes all his academic understanding was waste. Just a substitution for actual experience. Hold on. If intellectual understanding is waste, what does that say about what we're doing right now in this deep dive?
That's a great question. The sources make a distinction. Eric was using concepts as a shield, a barrier against vulnerability. He was collecting knowledge, not integrating it.
So necessary conceptualization leads you to the door of experience.
Exactly. Substitution is when you just stand outside admiring the architecture of the door forever.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And then the purpose of the whole gathering expands. It's not just about healing old wounds anymore. Miriam arrives.
A woman in her 30s, she just shows up at the cafe drawn by the energy, but she has none of the history, none of the lifetimes of preparation.
And Marcus confirms it. She is the first new soul to find us.
And her arrival is critical. It forces the old group to shift their focus from the past to the future. They're not just a karma cleanup crew anymore. Now they have to generate new growth.
And just as this new phase begins, Anna, the witness, the hospice nurse, she starts to see the signs.
The subtle physical signs that Marcus's current body, which she sees as borrowed and constructed, is nearing its end.
And Marcus confirms it. The purpose of his return is almost complete.
Which, of course, terrifies the group. They're afraid of losing their center, so they ask that classic question, what do we do when you're gone? Who leads?
It shows that old pattern is still there. That need for a structure, a hierarchy.
And Marcus gives them this radical final teaching. He says, you don't maintain, you live. He tells them that teaching was never his, it's just the nature of reality itself recognizing itself.
He points out that focusing on structure is what made them fail the first time.
Trying to capture a moving river, and then Miriam, the new soul, asks him about the certainty they see in him, and his answer is, it's just a profound piece of philosophy.
He says the certainty is not the absence of doubt,
but the absence of the one who doubts.
Okay, let's break that down for the listener. The absence of the one who doubts. What does that mean?
It means you stop identifying with that part of your mind that needs everything to be certain. The ego that needs validation, that operates from fear. When you realize that the doubter isn't your deepest self.
Then uncertainty isn't an obstacle anymore.
It becomes the ground you stand on. You can act from that place of not knowing, instead of being paralyzed by it.
That is a powerful distinction.
Yes.
And the final moments are described with such intimacy. They're all there in his small apartment.
And Anna notes he's not struggling. He is just letting go when the letting go is ready.
And they share their final acknowledgments. Anton admits he was wrong. Katja wishes he could meet her daughter. Eric thanks him for showing him the moon.
The direct experience, not the concept of it.
And before he goes, Marina, who was Vera, asks about their love, the thing that started this whole 70-year journey.
And he confirms it. The love does not disappear between lives. It transforms.
His final words just synthesize the whole thing. The light that you are does not go out. It releases from this form and returns to the source, the darkness that is not dark, the nothing that is everything.
It's not about personal reincarnation in the classic sense. It's about the physics of consciousness. Awareness is never destroyed. It's just released.
And so the story ends, but it's not an ending. It's a transformation of the group. Marcus, the physical center, is gone, but they keep meeting at the cafe.
They deliberately leave his window table empty. They've finally understood his last lesson. They don't need a leader.
They realize we are the center now. Not any one of us, but all of us together.
The living teaching has been restored. They're practicing presence without a teacher.
And then, in this beautiful, poetic way, the pattern continues. A new woman shows up, and her name, by coincidence or not, is Lena.
She walks into the cafe, and the source says she feels a dissolution of something that had been solid. The boundaries of herself feel suddenly permeable.
She sits down near the empty window table.
The seat of pure attention. The story just continues through her. The patterns will always seek resolution. The universe is patient, It's just waiting for us to stop fighting the architecture we keep building around ourselves.
So the ultimate takeaway from these sources, it really leaves you with a concept that's beyond life and death. The reality is, neither life nor not, neither ending nor continuing, just this, always and only this.
The awareness that was aware of it all, patient as the light itself.
Which leaves us with the question for you to think about. What core pattern, the builder, the strategist, the runner, the thinker, have you been repeating across the chapters of your own life?